Damien was right when it came to, who's going to introduce Cleopatra. I was like, you can shut the list off. It's right here. This is who's doing it. Our Outstanding Young Alumni Award winner is someone you will never forget. And it starts before you even meet her. And I remember that because I remember looking at my class roster and seeing the name Cleopatra Shabazz. A name you will never forget. And then you meet Cleopatra Shabazz and her bubbly, warm personality, so full of life, full of energy, as you will see very shortly here. A personality you will never forget. And then you see the drive of Cleopatra Shabazz. She was part of so many different organizations here when she was on campus. She had major internships. WIS did an awesome job there. She gave everything she had in every single one of her classes. And if you ask for professors, so many of them will say she's absolutely one of our favorites. So she has that drive you'll never forget. And then we talk about the post-graduation story of Cleopatra Shabazz. She got in the door at ESPN, and I mean just barely in the door. Like, it is the low of the low-level jobs at ESPN. And Greg Brannon, who was one of our sports professors, just retired recently, he and I remember talking very shortly after she got that job, and it was like, well, she's going to be running that place in no time. Like, low level, that's not going to keep Cleopatra Shabazz down. She's going to be growing, and it's going to work out so awesome for her. And no surprise that it absolutely did. She's worked in all different departments. She's now found a home at ESPN Deportes, putting that Spanish minor to work. And while there, not only doing great work behind the scenes at ESPN, but she's also been involved in outreach programs. And ESPN sends her places. They send her to conferences. They send her to all these different places to help recruit future employees. She's the face of ESPN at many of these conferences she goes to. So she is a success story that we won't forget. And the Gamecock heart of Cleopatra Shabazz. Many students say they want to give back, and many, many do. But I don't know many who give back as much as Cleopatra does. She is one of my most frequent guest speakers. And she lives in Connecticut. So think about that. Every time she comes back to town, she's emailing me. I'm coming. What can I do? Who can I talk to? Can I give them my email address? Can I give them my phone number? Here's my LinkedIn. She talks to our students. Of course, she came to my class this morning. She was here. I was like, heck yeah, you're coming. So she spoke in my class this morning. After class ended, she stood outside for another 40 minutes talking to every single student who wanted to talk one-on-one with her. She's not just a great Gamecock, but she's determined to help that next generation of Gamecocks as well. So she has a Gamecock heart that we won't forget. So say it with me. It's really fun. Cleopatra Shabazz is our Outstanding Young Alumni Award winner. She is more than deserving. Cleopatra is unforgettable. Thank you. It's heavy.
Okay, I got some weight too.
It does have some weight to it.
Oh my goodness, this is such a beautiful award. You know, I wrote a speech and then I woke up at 2 a.m. and then I rewrote it. And then probably 2 hours prior to getting here, I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to speak from the heart. So here goes nothing. My origin story began since Dr. Holt made me sound like such a superhero. I may as well have an origin story, right? Well, it actually began in a very small town called Lawrence, South Carolina. If you're not familiar, if you look at a map, it's approximately a geographical midpoint between Carolina and Clemson. So it's very hit or miss. Could have been a Tiger, but I love, love, love the Gamecocks. I knew since I was a kid I wanted to attend the University of South Carolina. I would watch every Carolina-Clemson game, and the bare minimum I thought to myself was, gosh, if I could just be a student at this school, right? by golly, that would just be so amazing. And then I get here and I'm like, gosh, maybe I could get a job in Atlanta. Maybe I could get a job in Charlotte. Because mind you, I've only been in South Carolina my whole life at that point. And then taking classes with amazing professors like Dr. Ho made me think, could I possibly go to an ESPN? Could me, from South Carolina of all places, go to an ESPN? And honestly, he helped me believe just that. I love to share a quick story about a project that he actually had me do my senior year that at the time freaked me out, but ended up being a career lesson that really carried over and has continued to carry over throughout every year I've spent at ESPN. So my senior year, I'm taking his sports journalism course, and the assignment that every student individually had was to cover the Columbia Fireflies. At this time, I didn't really know anything about baseball. I come from a college football family. We like football, we like basketball, we like the NFL, NCAA, but no one in my family liked baseball. Like, I barely knew what a shortstop was. I was proud of myself for knowing who Francisco Lindor was, but I didn't really know what that position meant. I didn't really know what an RBI was, and I would spend time in his class just drawing on the diamond. Okay, where's first baseman? Where's the second base? Like, I really didn't know. So at first, I go into this project very, very scared, very frantic, and I'm like, I might actually get a bad grade in Dr. Ho's class, and I'm gonna disappoint him because every other class I've taken, I've aced his classes. But that good old handy Spanish minor came in. It just so happened that the Columbia Fireflies were doing a Hispanic fan engagement initiative, and I said, you know what, this story is not gonna be about X's and O's. It's not gonna be about a single RBI. It's just gonna be about the community instead. So I took that story, interviewed 7 people to be exact, people who work behind the scenes for the Fireflies. I interviewed players, I interviewed fans. One of the players I interviewed, Ronnie Mauricio, now plays for the New York Mets, and I had his manager play as my interpreter because I wanted to make sure from the Spanish to English translation, everything made sense. And the best part about this story is it was a written article, but we ended up using the website Medium. So I was able to use tweets that were sent out. I was able to also have music and sound bites. So I used the sound bite from that interview where I asked the question in English, and then the manager translates it in Spanish, and then the player answers in Spanish, and then the manager translates it back in English. So reading the article and then hearing that back and forth, it was like, And then the best part, on the day of the Hispanic Engagement Initiative, because I had to go to the Fireflies Stadium twice, 2 players were up close at the bench, so I got pictures, I got to talk to them as well, and I got a perfect 100, which at the time was like, oh my God, yes! I did not fail any assignment in his class, like, thank God, but the story actually does not stop there. So why that project, I remember it so vividly, and why it means the world to me. November 12th, 2019, Bristol, Connecticut. I'm in my 3rd round interview. They flew me up, never been up north before. It's 20 degrees. I was wearing the same boots that I'm wearing tonight. For 20 degrees was a horrible mistake. So I'm literally shaking. And this interview was, oh my God, it was an all-day interview. From 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., the whole day is an interview. There's group interviews where it's me and 3 other people, and we're breaking down footage from a highlight. Here's 12 plays, break it down to 7 plays, break it down to 5 plays, break it down to 3 plays. Then there's one-on-one interviews where I'm sitting with the gentleman and we're talking. The tour was an interview. The lunch was an interview. The gift shop was the interview. I kid you not. Like, every stage was the interview. But I get to the one-on-one interview, and they asked me the grand old classic interview question that I swear is one of those questions that trip you up, but they know what they're doing when they ask this. They say, so can you tell me a bit about your strengths and your weaknesses? Oh yes, can you tell me a bit about your strengths and weaknesses? So the strengths part was easy. I love football, I love basketball. Everyone says that, right? But I chose to be honest. I said that part too, but I said, you know what, I'm not gonna lie. Baseball might actually be my Achilles heel. And this might be the thing that makes or breaks your decision in hiring me. But if you give me a shot, I can tell you how I will make this sport become my strength. Here's an example. And I proceed to tell him about that story. And by the end of that story, he's looking at me like, And once I heard the I was like, okay, we got a chance. We got a chance. He said like that's not no. And literally the very next day, November 13th, 2019, I'm back home because I had to fly out later that night. And I get the phone call of my lifetime, and I break down in tears. I'm just crying. I'm like, whoa, whoa, I'm about to work at ESPN in 2 months. Oh my God. And I'll never forget that date because November 13th was a month before my birthday, December 13th. And I remember December 25th, 2019, I'm sitting there watching NBA with my brothers. And it's a holiday tradition that we do every Christmas is watch the NBA games. And my youngest brother, who's in attendance, he literally looks at me and goes, sis, this might be the last Christmas that you spend with me, because you might proceed to work NBA every Christmas for the rest of your tenure. And I've done just that. But wait, there's more. I've done more than work basketball. And it took time to work basketball. So the point that I'm telling in that story about, working baseball and being uncomfortable is when I did start working at ESPN in January 13th, good things happen in 13th, 2020, I get into the international department and it's, so you're actually going to work soccer? We need more people to work soccer, and that was a sport, once again, did not watch soccer, did not like soccer, did not want to be up at 4 a.m. to do Spanish La Liga, but I already was put in a position where I had to learn a sport and make something good out of it. So I said, you know what, if I can do that project for Dr. Ho, I can work some soccer. So I worked soccer for a year first. Then I get into the NBA on ESPN, and then we get to the Monday Night Football, and then we get to the U.S. Open Tennis Tournament, and then we get to Sunday Night Baseball, which I have worked for the past 2 seasons now. So I say all this to say that, your education really does matter. You go to the right school and you meet the right professors who take everything they've learned from this industry and they pour it into students like me. All you can really do is pay it forward. Like, yes, I do live in Connecticut, and it'll be 6 years in January, but home, sweet home. It's something about going to a restaurant and not having to pay for refills that gives me so much joy when I am here. It means everything. But the truth is, I just always wanted to be the alum that I wish I had when I was a student. I didn't have a connection. I didn't know anybody who worked at ESPN. I didn't know anybody at the Walt Disney Company. I just wanted to be somebody. And I think the best part about when you are somebody, it's easy to look in the mirror and say, oh, look at me, I'm so cool, I'm so fly, I'm so awesome, right? But it doesn't mean anything if you're not going out of your way to help people. That's what really makes you somebody is, what is your legacy? Who do you really want to be? When people mention your name, is it they just mention my name because I have a cool name? Because I do, but I want to be somebody that has an impact, that means the world. And so that's why it means so much to me to come here, to be in your presence, to bargain with my scheduler and be like, hey, this means everything to me. I need this time off. Like, you'll have me on the next Monday Night Football game, which I will be back for this upcoming Monday. But in the meantime, let me go back home and be great. So I'm internally thankful for everyone who's given me any type of advice. Every student, because I see Alan Devlin in attendance. And so, seeing students that helped me out when I started out in HGTV, when I didn't know how to work a camera, and I'm just like, oh my God, how do you tell this story? What is your on-camera presence? And even though I'm not using my talents for the on-air camera greatness, being behind the scenes, being an influence to someone means everything. And I do also want to thank my coworkers at ESPN and the Walt Disney Company, because I was very nervous, moving up north, because once again, I spent my whole life in the South, and I'm like, oh my God, what if they make fun of my accent? What if they think I dress weird or they look weird? But no, they allowed me to be my authentic self. And when people started telling me, and I quote, don't you ever, ever, ever lose your accent. That's what makes you you. Now I can sprinkle my Southern hospitality into the workplace. So we're good now. we're good now. And I do also want to dedicate this award to my family. Some of them were unable to be in attendance, so there are a couple names that I do want to shout out. I give so much honor and so much thanks to God first and foremost, and I want to shout out Welcome to Christ Ministries located in Easley, South Carolina, to my apostle Arthur McMichael. I want to give a huge shout out to him and to every member of the congregation who prays for me, who checks in on me on my good days, on my bad days, every day in between. I want to give a shout out to my sweet mom, Wesley Garrett. She's literally my twin. If she could have made it, you would have been like, oh my God, your mom is your twin. And she prays for me every day and, you know, speaks so much life into me as her only daughter. So I have to give her a shout out. To my late father, Julian Shabazz. He passed away in 2020, and that year was really hard for me, if I'm being honest, but I know he would be so, so proud of me if he could have lived to be here today. And he taught me the huge value of higher education. He used to be a professor at Benedict College, so I wanted to show him some love as well. To my three brothers, Rasul, Nigel, and Khalil. My big brother retired out of the Air Force, and he's just living his best life overseas. And my brother Nigel, he just finished up in tech school, so he's applying for jobs, wishing him the best. My youngest brother Khalil, who works for the Disney College program in Orlando, Florida. We like to keep it in the family, so I'm really proud of him as well. And also to my amazing best friend Sabina, who's been my friend since college and who supported me through the ups, the downs, the shenanigans, everything in between. I just thank you all, and I love you all, and I hope I did my best speaking from the heart tonight. Thank you.